Hello, everyone. Anyone can confirm that my voice is clear? Anyone can hear me? If anyone can hear my voice clearly, just drop a comment. That's great. So let's start. Welcome to another episode of our series of describing and explaining MITRE attack from both sides, both red team and blue team perspective. In the previous episode, I believe that Mr. Hisham explained what is the persistence at the first place, and then explained one of the most common techniques that used by adversaries and attackers in order to maintain and achieve persistence. So uh, he explained it from a team point, and he showed us how to emulate the technique using the canary scripts. And in this episode, I will continue from he stopped, and I will use the same scripts that Rick Canary used in order to emulate the technique. And this time, I will show the scripts and the commands from the perspective on how to defend and detect these scripts and these commands, and if this technique is used against your environment and against your company. So let me share my screen. All right, so we already explored the website of the MITRE in a previous episode, and I told you that about the matrix of the enterprise and the tactics of the MITRE and the techniques that exist under every tactic. And I don't want to repeat myself, so I will directly go to the page of the technique that we are talking about today, which is the schedule task. And if you notice, it's a sub technique of uh, a main technique. So in this main technique or this main category, the adversary use the schedule task process or service in order to achieve the persistence. Note that this service is actually one of the main features in any operating system. So if whether you are using Mac OS, Windows, Linux, even Android, I think there will always be this feature of automating tasks in certain times with certain triggers. And in this episode and the previous one, we focused solely on the scheduled task, the service that related to Windows, but you can use the cron, which is a service that has the same functionality on Linux. And maybe in another and future episodes, uh, we will explain the other ones, but they all have the same basics and the same idea, which is abusing the service of the Windows that provide the administrator to automate some certain task in a certain times and with the certain triggers. So the attacker will abuse this function to maintain his access uh, against any reboot, system reboot, or any uh, problems or issues with the connectivity. So in MITRE attack, in the page of every technique, we can find a summary of the technique. Of course, uh, it's very constructed and it's a high level summary, but you can get the main idea from this summary. Of course, you shouldn't rely only on this summary. You have to make your search and learn more about this technique. And here we have in the second section, we have the procedures that used this observed to use this technique in the wild. And the procedure is actually the tool or whatever the mean the attacker or the adversary used to achieve or to implement this technique. So in this technique, the attacker abuse the Windows registry or Windows scheduled task. And these are some of the famous malwares or APTs groups that have observed to use this technique in their malwares and in their tools. For example, this Trojan is very famous, which is Cloudbot, and if you uh, following the news and from in the past month, the FBI was successfully able to shut down their operation, and this certain Trojan is known for using two techniques for persistence, and one of them is the scheduled task. All right, so let's back to our subject, which is the detection part. So in every page of the techniques, MITRE provide the ways that you can, as a defender, use to detect if this technique is performed or used against your environment. And of course, it's a summary and it's very high level, but you can know the main idea and you can use it in order to make rules or to learn how to investigate this technique. So the first one we have today is, or the first one we have in this section is the command. And one of the first or one of the main ways to monitor for this technique is the command. You have to monitor the commands that is used to perform this technique. And of course, you don't need to monitor all the commands that is running in your environment, and even if you won't be able to. So there's some certain commands that you need to monitor or to make rules for. And of course, as you saw in the previous episode, you can achieve this technique or you can achieve the persistence through this technique using multiple ways. So you can use the schedule task command, which is the native command or native program that come pre-installed with Windows. You can use PowerShell commands for this. You can even use the VMI for achieving this technique. So there is multiple way to achieve this technique, and you have to monitor for all of them. So I have here the page of the Red Canary, and the Red Canary for who Red Canary is microscripts that is used to emulate these techniques, the techniques that is listed in MITRE. So you can use these scripts in order to emulate these techniques and test your solutions. So, for example, one of the first tests for this technique or the commands that you can use for executing and performing this technique. Here you can see that it use the schedule task, and this is the main program that used for interacting with the schedule tasker on the Windows, and it's come pre-installed with Windows. So this is one of the first commands you need to monitor. So you need to monitor in your rule that you are creating. You need to monitor any usage of this command with the flag create, because this is the flag that is used to create a new task. And also you need one of the ways that used used for performing this technique using the partial. I have here this is how you can achieve the same idea or the same technique using some partial. First you have to make a new task action, and this action will be the the action that will be executed whenever the trigger is set, and this is the trigger. And here in the script you can see that the trigger is the login. So whenever the user log into the system, this command will be executed, and this is the action, and this is the principle or the rule or the privilege of the user that will be this task will be run under it. And it's here it's an administrator, and actually the attacker will need only these three lines in order to make the new task. And then all what they need is to use register schedule task, and then of course it will the attacker will pass all these three arguments to the command, and then the task will be created. So if you want to prevent this or to monitor for this, you have to monitor for any command line that involve one of these four uh, commandlet: new schedule task action, and task trigger, and task principle, and of course register schedule task. So, and also there is a way for creating this task using VMI, but I will let it to you to discover. So back to the main idea. So one of the main ways is to monitor the command line, but actually the attacker can also achieve this technique or using this technique without any usage of the command line, because the attacker can use the Windows API for creating scheduled tasks. So if we only rely on this rule or in this detection mechanism, some of the attacks will pass through our defenses, because, as I said, some attackers will not use uh, a direct command line. So what also we can monitor for detecting such behavior. This is one of the best ways to in order to discover any new task that is registered in your machine. So let me open PowerShell. We have a folder in the Windows that called task. And this folder exists in this path. It exists under the Windows root and then system 32 and then the task. And if I use the command dir, it will list all the files in this folder. And actually these files are all the tasks that is exist and stored in my device. So if I open the task scheduler, you will notice that these are the tasks that is listed in this file. So what is happening here, that every time a user create a new task, it will get registered, or it will get create the Windows will create a new file in this directory in the name of this task. So even if you didn't manage to catch the performance of the technique using the monitoring for the command lines, because it's very possible for the attacker to use a different command that you are monitoring for. Even the attacker can use the obfuscation for their commands, so your detection mechanism won't be able to discover or detect the command. Then you can use this the monitoring for this file to detect any new task that is registered in your system by monitoring any new file created in this folder. So this is another way to detect the scheduled task, scheduled task, and of course this is a monitoring for process creation. And the third important one, and actually this is for me the most important log source, which is the Windows event logs. So Windows event logs can track any new task created on the Windows, and there's actually multiple event ID that is related to the creation of the new task. But the most important one is this 4698, and this event is gets stored whenever a new task created on the machine. And actually the event itself will contain uh, information about the new uh, task created. You can see here, the name of the task and the security ID or the account name that created this task. And in the details of this event ID, you will find more information that will help you to decide whether if this event or if this action is malicious or not. And one thing to notice that Windows doesn't store or doesn't log these the events that is related to scheduled tasks by default. So you have to enable uh, a policy for to make the Windows or to make the host starting to log all these logs that is related to scheduled tasks. So this is the three main ways to monitor for any creation of a new task in your system. And of course you can use the scheduled task for exploring the task that exists in this machine. For example, I have here this task that I created in the last session. This is the name of the task, and this is the user that created this task. And you can see in the triggers that this task will only run when the user log in. Uh, Actually, this is login of any user. So this task will run whenever any user to in this machine will log in, and the action it will create, you can see that it will execute the calculator application. But of course, in a real incident, you will find here maybe the attacker will run their malware, or will run a script that will run their malware, or maybe you will find some obfuscation data that will run. So whatever the mean that the attacker is using the scheduled task for it. And you can also use the PowerShell for getting and query all the scheduled tasks on the host. So this will be all for today. And if anyone has any question regarding this technique, I will be happy for answering. Is there any question? All right, so that will be all for today. And in the next episode, Mr. Hisham will explain another technique of the MITRE. So stay tuned and thank you for your time.